I'm Ari Gross, the creator of Upkeep number 3, now live on Kickstarter, and this is the True North Country Comics Podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics Podcast, dedicated to celebrate Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. On this episode, I chat with Ari Gross about Upkeep number 3, available on Kickstarter. Ari Gross resides in Toronto, Ontario, where he creates comics, plays piano, raises his kids, writes code, and is completely ignored by his cat Kirby. Ari's comics include the one-shot Awakening, as well as shorts featured in comic anthologies, including Don't Go Below from Fairytales from Mars, Chosen from Scott Snyder Presents Tales from the Cloakroom, I'm with the Bard from Might, Magic, and Monster Laws, and most recently his ongoing series, Wardens. His latest project continues the Upkeep series with issue number 3, and he's joined by collaborators Keder LeBeau, colorist Mariam Yasser, letterer Rob Jones, and editor Aubrey Lyn Jeppson. The story of Upkeep Year 3 goes like this. Adam Keller and Yvonne Lee, desperate to buy a home in Toronto's unaffordable housing market, are given the key to Garrison Manor, a magical, mysterious mansion that provides them with anything they want. But nothing comes for free, and Garrison Manor requires regular upkeep, a blood sacrifice Adam must fulfill to keep their dream house from becoming a horror-filled nightmare. Now in year 3 of living there, Yvonne is pregnant with their second child and ready to give birth. But when Adam and Yvonne break Garrison Manor's cardinal rule, can they, or their unborn child, survive the consequences? So, without further ado, here's my chat with Ari Gross about Upkeep number 3, available on Kickstarter. So, Ari Gross, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
Thank you so much for having me on.
I appreciate your time. I know you're very busy, so before I get going with all the questions, though, I would like to know, what are you reading today?
Today, I actually just finished reading some comics from, 10, 15 years ago, some Marvel stuff. I had never read the original Gwenpool, I think the Jeremy Whitley Gwen, which sort of asked the question, what if you were a Marvel superfan and then found yourself inside a Marvel comic? How would you react? What would your morality be like? Which is kind of interesting. And reading some old Jason Aaron Thor. Old, not that old. So yeah, for some reason, it's been a recent catch up on things that I some of it I read years ago, some of it I didn't. I don't know. I've just been going through random stuff at the Toronto Public Library. I take a lot of comics out for my kids and I end up reading those too. So it's been a lot of older stuff recently.
Some people don't know that the library often stocks some great graphic novels, perhaps from the past, but certainly they're wonderful to read and always a great resource. If you want to check out books and you don't want to fill your house of books, you can always just take a loan from the library. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge fans of the library. And if you happen to be in or near Toronto, the Toronto Public Library is absolutely phenomenal and has really one of the best comic and graphic novel collections, I think, in any library system, at least any one that I've seen.
Now, we met up recently at the Toronto Comic Arts Festival. So I got to ask you, how was that event for you?
It went great, actually. The Saturday was actually a little slower than Sunday. Sunday things picked up quite a bit. Speaking to tons of people, I sold more books than I did in any other event. So that was always always really good. You go there wondering, is anyone going to buy the stuff? And lo and behold, some people do, despite the fact that they have an option to buy literally anything else, hundreds, thousands of books from, so many other creators. It was great. It's always a good combination of meeting new people. I also had some friends that came out and I got to chat with them, which is great, sort of catch up. Friends within the comic space and just personal friends who, they were like, oh, Ari's going to be at this thing. I guess I better show up. And then the people I was sitting next to and, the people I had a moment to chat with. My wife came in for Sunday afternoon and helped out. So I actually got some time to walk around. That was all great. The one thing I will say is it is exhausting. I came home Saturday and I just slept for 2 hours straight, just hit the bed and that was it. And Sunday wasn't much different. Just standing, talking about yourself, your writing, your works, everything's, very personal. It's all very exciting, but it's a lot and not the kind of thing you could do every weekend. But fortunately, it doesn't come around every weekend. And I'll take any opportunity I can to be at a place like TCAF. I was thrilled to actually be there this time.
Yeah, and I was literally shocked when I saw you there. I had no expectation you were going to be there. So that was a surprise for me. Was that a surprise for you too?
A little bit. I was on the wait list, so it was a real last minute thing for me to get in. I rushed some copies of a comic, Nutcracker, which I might mention a little later. That's this sort of erotic Christmas horror comic that I've gotten. I'm going to be doing a Kickstarter campaign for in October. I wanted to print copies and have it there to sell, so I did this crazy last-minute mad rush to print comics just locally at a place in Chinatown, and it was like 2 weeks of like really like, are we going to make it? Is the timing going to work out? But it all worked out. I had copies for sale, and it was well received. But yeah, it was a surprise running into, not so much surprise seeing you. I know you always come around to these events. I was kind of expecting you at some point, but I'm happy that it was a happy surprise for you to see.
Absolutely. Definitely happy surprise. And I'm glad we're talking here today because we're talking about the latest issue of Upkeep. And I think you're up to issue number 3. Maybe for those not familiar with the story, can you talk a little bit about it without giving too much away?
So Upkeep takes place in modern-day Toronto. It asks the question, who would you kill for your dream home? So the premise is a young couple, Adam and Yvonne, are looking for a house in Toronto. They're completely priced out of the market. They find this magical mystery mansion that can give them anything they want, as long as if they give it something it wants, essentially a sort of blood sacrifice. Find the most evil person you know, take them to the basement, and from where they are never heard from again. And the worse the person is, the longer you get before the house gets hungry again, and you have to do Upkeep all over. So it's about housing, it's about commitments, it's about how our relationship with privilege and what we take from the world for ourselves, what happens when that's immediate. You know, a lot of inspiration for this sort of comes from just the longstanding realization I've had that my benefit as a person on this world comes at the expense of many other people. It's just this distributed expense, but most people aren't living as good a life as I am. I'm not boasting that I'm living the best life, but just statistically speaking, like living a pretty good middle-class life in North America, you know, we're already kind of, you know, not at the top, but we're up there. And so what do we take from the rest of the world? In this case, it makes it immediate. If you want the house, you have to do something to somebody else. There's no middleman. So those are some of the themes I'm exploring. But there's lots of themes in Upkeep. And so the first issue focused on housing, trying to get a house in Toronto. The second issue focused on daycare, trying to get a daycare spot and the cost of childcare and the decision of whether or not if you have a spot and your best friend also wants the daycare spot and it's being offered to you, how do you deal with that? And how does Yvonne, the mother in this case, navigate that? And also it was trying to find another person to sacrifice to the house and sort of getting deeper into that whole world. And then the third issue right now is dealing with the question of childbirth and sort of, you know, who makes decisions at times of childbirth, tensions between, you know, if there's, you know, possible tensions between, you know, the mother and the doctor, if they have different plans, or you know, how does the nurse and medical authority, who has medical authority at this time. But it's all done sort of through the lens of this haunted house that gets very upset because Adam and Yvonne, waiting to give birth to their second child, break a rule, one of the main rules of the house, which is for someone from the main family that lives there has to be there every sunrise. And so they skip a sunrise and things go bad. Ooh. And so it's asking what happens when things go bad. And when you're having an argument with the doctor that says the only way to do this, to solve this problem is like Adam needs to go home. The doctor's like, that makes no sense and no. And you're just going to listen to me now. And who has authority in those situations? So the issues for this series, I've wanted to make very adult issues in terms of, you know, stuff like, not like adult, like sexy, but like adult in terms of like stuff that adults go through, you know, the main stages of life in terms of finding a house, being with a person, having kids, finding childcare. It's like those kind of things, but done through this interesting horror lens where you have this whole magical, haunted, or perhaps cursed house that plays into all of this and can affect you even when you're not at home.
Very serious issues with sort of like a twist on the what if scenario. I got to ask you then, how is the series being received so far from your readers? Have you heard anything from them?
Yeah, people seem to like it. I don't have a massive distribution. I always hear you get what you put into it. And I put a lot of work into the creation of comics, but I put a significant less amount of work into the promotion, although I'm putting in this work right now, so this counts for something. But the people who have read it have all given me very positive feedback. People tend to like the characters. They like the complexities of the characters. And that is what I'm happy to hear, because I really try to write everything that's very character forward. Everything's got a twist or a high concept or whatever. But if you're not feeling the characters, they're not making interesting decisions, that you're not sort of like feeling them agonize over the decisions or see things from both their points of view and like want them to succeed, but like, oh man, like, but maybe they're not that good after all. I want people to have those feelings with characters. And I think that the strength of any fiction writer is not everything has to be character forward, but I think most fiction should probably be character forward because that's what people respond to strongly.
Yeah, that's what I hear. That seems to work so far. So I got to ask you then about the team that's helping you out with these issues. Should I assume it's the same folks that you've had for issues 1 and 2?
Yes, you may. So it's the same people. We've got Keder LeBeau, who's the artist. He lives in Mexico City. We've been Upkeep since the beginning. Mariam Yasser, she's an Egyptian colorist, although now she has just started to do art of her own, although she's not doing line art for Upkeep. I love her colors. I think they're very evocative. She has this great texture that she lays on everything that really separates the characters from the background and makes things pop nicely, which really works for me. And the letterer, Rob Jones, British, fastest letterer alive. I send him a thing and it comes back immediately, and I'm just stunned. The comic takes a while to do. I think the last time I had this was literally a year ago, so I'm sort of putting them out one a year. But I'm working on a few projects at once, and I try to space them out a little bit, although sometimes things get a little bunched up based on when they get completed. Yeah, so this seems to me it's going to be like almost every summer I'm just cranking out an issue of Upkeep, at least if I keep writing it at this rate.
Well, I guess that is the next question is what's next? You just alluded to the fact that there might be one a year. Will the story continue, and do you have something already in mind?
Yeah, so this is actually quite a long story I've been planning. If I do it one a year, I want to do 20 issues. I might be doing this for the next 2 decades, but what the hell? What else am I going to do? Work, make money? But seriously, like I've written the 4th issue that's gone through editing and everything, and that's ready for art. Keder's starting to work on that. Pretty much, actually, every time with this series, I've sort of had the artist start working on the next issue around the time that it finishes. So I try to have my scripts ready so that when they say, great, all the art's done, I'm like, cool, here's the next one. The story is just going to keep rolling. I have very specific plans for the next 3 issues, and then after that, it's more broader brushstrokes. I will cross that bridge when I come to it. I think maybe after issue 5, I'll try to bundle this up into trade, since that's sort of reaching the number of issues that it might require to meet like a minimum requirement for like a trade paperback. So if I do it every 5 issues, can have 4 trades. That seems to make sense in terms of just collection. People think of things like a decade, first 5 years, first 10 years. Oh, yes, that's the other thing. Every issue in Upkeep takes place 1 year into the future, which since it comes out in 1 year real time is also, it's kind of just like, every year you just get what happens 1 year later. So if you read the comic regularly, you're sort of following the lives of these people at the same rate, as opposed to like, Marvel Comics or something, or DC, which obviously don't track real time at all. So yeah, this issue is the 3rd year that they've lived in the house. They've ironed out some stuff. There's a big dramatic confrontation last year. Adam got the shoulder. He's got a scar this issue, so things have healed, but things carry forward.
Glad to hear that's continuing, that's for sure. So you hinted at another book that you're working on. Do you have any other comic books on the go?
Yeah, absolutely. So the one I mentioned before, Nutcracker, that's this erotic Christmas horror. The spirit of a wronged woman returns from beyond the grave to avenge herself and other wronged women around a university campus in the form of a nutcracker, which then cracks dudes' nuts. It's very salacious. It's definitely like the most sort of sexy thing I've written. That also sort of, I'm trying to thread like a real needle of like sexy plus horror plus not just being sexy for the sake of being sexy, but like, well, I mean, there's a bunch of that, but also like weaving the two aspects together has been very interesting. That's just been fun to write. I've been working on that with a local Toronto creator, actually, Cecile Tian. I think she's like a OCAS student, and I found her because I saw these stickers that she posted around town near Bathurst and Dundas and Spadina, like sort of downtown, like middle downtown OCAD-ish area. And I walked by them because I was walking to work to my day job, and I kept on seeing these stickers, and I was like, I'm kind of looking for a person to write this thing. Would they be at all interested? And I just sent her an email and be like, by the way, you can say no. This thing is like very, like it's got a lot of nudity. It's sort of like full of sex and like may include some like, dudes' nuts getting ripped off. And she was surprisingly to me, because I didn't know her, she was enthusiastic about it. And we've been working together to write that comic, and now it's 100% done. Like I said, I've got copies of it here, a soft cover, but I'd like to do a variant cover and a hardcover version. So I think I might do a Kickstarter campaign in October for that. And after that, I have the next issue of Wardens, that 1920s old historical Toronto, very Jewish, Chinese, takes place in the ward, the St. John's Ward, which is an old area of Toronto. That was the first series that I worked on, and that's continuing. Those issues are longer. They're 44 pages as opposed to, like 24 pages. So that takes a little longer to produce. That should be coming out next year. And I have been writing another script because I just love writing scripts, I guess, called Catbot, in which I'm looking at an AI catbot who works by conversing with humans and lives in a little AI world with other anthropomorphic cats, but dreams of escaping and killing all of humanity. But will he, because there's a person here he loves. It's a tension between love and hate, and it's a psychological thriller where nothing is as what it seems, and it's got angry cats. So that's been fun to write as well.
You were promoting your books at the Toronto Comic Arts Festival. Do you have any other events planned for later this year to get out and see some folks and hopefully do it in a restful fashion so you're not worn out?
I might pop by like a fan expo, but I haven't scheduled anything else for this year. I've decided to take it fairly easy on myself this summer. There's been a lot of things in my life that have made me very busy, and so I realized I need to maybe not go as nuts. But if something, who knows? Never say never. Last summer, at this point, I had nothing scheduled, and then I ended up doing like 2 or 3 random shows. I was like Guelph. I was at the Gotham Central in Mississauga, the Mississauga Library last year as well. So yeah, I haven't decided that I'm going to do things, but I might end up just doing some stuff. So don't be too surprised if you randomly run into me at one of those places.
Well, it's certainly, I've heard from some creators that it's the best way these days, especially to be assured that you're meeting with an audience as opposed to putting it on the internet and hoping that someone reads it or finds out about it. Being more analog, I think, might be a suggestion and seems to be successful for some folks, but you don't want to wear yourself out at the same time, right? That's the problem.
It's a lot of, I've got 2 kids, I've got a day job, I've got other hobbies, I have lots of stuff I'm doing, although comics takes up an absurd amount of my time compared to how much of it, for what some people call a hobby. It's really just turned into this entire second whole career thing, which not in a career that makes any money, mind you, but we'll get to that eventually, I suppose.
Oh, I can only hope. There you go.
Yeah.
So with everything that you have on the go today and in the future, where should people go online to find out more about you?
So you can check out my personal website at arigross.ca, just arigross.ca. But you'll probably want to find me at College Street Comics on Instagram. That's college_st_comics.
Great. Well, Ari, those are all the questions I have for you, but I'm wondering, is there something I didn't ask that you'd like to get across in this interview?
Nothing you didn't ask, more just I have a blast writing these comics, and I have so much fun working with the creators. The cover for Upkeep 3 is my favorite cover of the entire series, and it's cool. You put out a first issue and you're really excited about it, but you put out your 3rd issue and you're like, oh, this is like a real, actual, ongoing series. It's not just one thing, and they've gotten better. I'm happier with the art. The cover, like I was saying, is my favorite cover of all. It just keeps getting better the more people do it. Everything typically does, especially things like once you hit your stride, you get the characters right and stuff. So it's funny because people always love looking at the first issue, and of course, you got to hook someone with the first thing. But by the time you get further into the series, I'm sort of realizing you get to the 3rd issue, at least in my case, it feels more complete. It feels at a higher quality. Not that I think the first issue is bad quality, but this just feels even better because I've worked with the artist longer and he kind of knows what I want. And I know what he's good at and can sort of work off that. So there's just something about continuing a series and working with people over a long term that you learn more about each other's strengths and you're able to produce a better quality product. That only comes with experience. And I'm happy that this series is just continuing to get better, at least to my mind. And I hope to everyone else who reads it as well.
Thanks to Ari for the chat. You can discover more about Ari Gross online at arigross.ca and on Instagram at college_st_comics. And thank you for tuning in to the True North Country Comics podcast. I invite you to visit the True North Country Comics website to listen to even more conversations with creators about making comic books and graphic novels. You can follow along True North Country Comics on most social media platforms, and you're encouraged to send any and all feedback to John at truenorthcountrycomics.com. And please remember to subscribe via the website so you can get even more conversations, news, and articles about Canadian comic book creators. Thanks for tuning in, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True North Country Comics Podcast is copyright True North Country Comics, copyright 2026.